Hello everyone, welcome back to Mohana Astrology. Rajshri here, and after a long time I'm here with another video, and the reason is Jupiter's transit to the sign of Aquarius. We know that today Jupiter has transited to the sign of Aquarius. It itself is a very nice event. You know why? Because now Jupiter is ending its stay in the debilitation sign of Capricorn for the next 12 years. If you have watched my previous video for November 2021 moon sign predictions, I mentioned this there as well. So how do we know what to expect when Jupiter goes into Aquarius? Jupiter had gone into Aquarius earlier as well, but the planetary energy then, because the other planets have moved on, so the planetary energy then and the overall planetary energy now are quite different. Although Saturn, Rahu and Ketu remains in the same place, but the other planets are exerting their influences on Jupiter very differently now. This transit is going to be a very short transit for Jupiter. Jupiter is going to change sign again and going to move on to its own sign of Pisces on 13th of April 2022. So starting from today till 13th of April, it's almost 5 months transit for Jupiter in the sign of Aquarius. So this is called Atichari movement, Atichari Gati for Jupiter. So in Atichari movement, what happens? Jupiter is speeding away through a sign, and even before it can exert its effects and the sign can manifest Jupiter's effects on itself, the time is gone. Jupiter is out of the sign. So what we need to do here, we need to take quick steps to manifest this energy if we want to. And we also need to take care of the fact that Saturn is sitting one step behind Jupiter now, one sign behind Jupiter in the sign of Capricorn. So Saturn here is very powerful, extra powerful in its own sign. So in one way, Saturn is actually supporting Jupiter because Jupiter has moved to its another sign, which is Aquarius. Now the Aquarius's energy is very different from Capricorn's energy. Capricorn is highly materialistic, Aquarius is more spiritual. Aquarius energy is more in tune with Jupiter's own energy. Now, how we see the results of this Jupiter's transit in Aquarius? This itself is a huge relief for the moon sign Gemini, moon sign Leo, and moon sign Capricorn. Why? Because for Gemini, so long Jupiter was not only debilitated but also was placed in the 8th house along with Saturn. Now it's going to move to your 9th house, and Jupiter itself signifies 9th house. So it's a much better time for you, lucky time for you, prosperity awaits. And for Leo, so long Jupiter was in Capricorn, that was in the 6th house, not a good placement for Jupiter. Jupiter doesn't like 6th house, Jupiter doesn't like 8th house. 8th house still has a spiritual vibration, but 6th house is completely devoid of any kind of Jupiterian qualities. So Jupiter is not at all happy over there. But so Jupiter's movement to the 7th house from the moon is extremely favorable for Leo moon signs. It's going to bring some desire fulfillment, ambition fulfillment, and marital bliss for many of you. For Capricorn, Jupiter was so long in your own sign. Now, as per moon sign transits, Jupiter's placement in the 1st house is not considered great. It must have given you a lot of tension, a lot of stress. You probably had been a bit, I should say, clueless about what to do with life, about, what should be the next step in your life. But now Jupiter is moving to your second house, which is the house of wealth, and it's very nice for you again. It's going to bring a lot of prosperity, a lot of savings, and it's also going to give you a particular direction in professional life. Now, this transit is not so great for Cancer moon signs, Virgo moon signs, Sagittarius moon signs, and Pisces moon signs. For Pisces, it's still in the 12th house. The spirituality factor kind of echoes with Jupiter's own vibration of spiritual development, spiritual involvement. But for other three signs, it's not all that good. You need to be slightly careful now. Now, one thing we need to remember, for other signs, it's kind of, mixed results that you're going to get. Now, what I was talking about is one thing we need to remember, that the planet that we are talking about here is Jupiter. And Jupiter, no matter where it sits, it has three aspects. So by virtue of sitting in various houses, it can give good results, it can give bad results, it can give moderate results. But its aspects are always beneficial. So the houses that Jupiter is aspecting, no matter wherever it is sitting, is going to give some positivity, going to bring some positivity in our lives. So Jupiter's transit, wherever it happens in your birth chart, you actually need not worry too much, because along with some kind of drawback, some kind of negativity, if it is not placed in the great houses, there is always a silver lining. That's the best part of Jupiter transit for everyone. The aspect of silver lining is always there. I shall now quickly discuss the results in brief of this Jupiter's the Jupiter's transit in the sign of Aquarius for all 12 moon signs. Let me start with Aries. For Aries, Jupiter is now in the 11th house from your moon. It's a wonderful transit for you. From here, Jupiter is looking at your 5th house, your 3rd house, and your 7th house. So overall, you can see that investment wise, this is going to be a good time. You're going to make new friends. Monetary gains will be there. Desire fulfillment will be there. If there is any ambition, that's going to get fulfilled. You are going to go for quite a few short travels, and those are going to be beneficial for you as well. Your relationship with your siblings are going to be good. And if you have been going through a phase where the marital relationships were not that great, it's going to improve from now onwards for the next 5 months. And Jupiter, by virtue of sitting in the 11th house, itself gives good results, because here by sitting here, it gives potential for multiple earnings. It increases your income potential, it increases your earning potential. So over and all, it's a very nice transit for Aries moon sign. Moving on to Taurus. For Taurus moon sign, Jupiter is sitting in your 10th house. Now, moon sign wise, 10th house transit of Jupiter is not considered that great. It can bring some mental tension, it can bring some differences with your seniors at work. But if you can take care of that bit, it's not all that bad, because from here Jupiter is aspecting your 2nd house of wealth, of finances and family, and also your 6th house of job and employment. So these two aspects of life is definitely going to improve for you. Jupiter is also aspecting your 4th house. So mental peace can be there if you are not really getting involved in any kind of ego hassles with the seniors at work. and your mother's health is going to improve. Property related matters can be good for you. So overall, this is not such a bad transit at all, although 10th house transit is not considered that great, but the overall impact is not bad at all. I should say it's more positive for you. Moving on to the third sign, which is Gemini. For Gemini, so long, you must have gone through quite a long stretch of obstruction, obstacles, your dreams not coming true. But now Jupiter has moved to your ninth house. Ninth house is Jupiter's own house anyway. So from here, by virtue of sitting here, Jupiter can promote long distance travel. Jupiter can promote foreign travels. Jupiter is also looking at your third house. So overall, the energy is there will be a lot of travel for you. Now, Jupiter from here looks at your first house and looks at your fifth house. So first house is you, your own mind, your own self. So there will be a lot of wisdom in your thoughts. There will be a lot of you will be perceived as a knowledgeable person. Now, since he's looking at your fifth house as well. Fifth house is the house of education. It's sitting in ninth house of higher education, looking at fifth house of education. So over and all, it's the time for higher education. It's the time for success in education. Maybe some of you may complete your education and move on to the higher studies if you want to do that, and it will be good for you. Next, Cancer. Well, for Cancer, so long Jupiter was in your seventh house, which was a very nice transit. Now it has moved to your 8th house. Now 8th house transit of Jupiter is not considered that great in Vedic astrology. It can bring some issues with obstacles, sudden events in life. Now those sudden events can also be positive because monetarily positive, because it's looking at your second house of savings and second house of wealth. It can erode some wealth, it can give you some wealth suddenly as well. If you are in insurance business, if you are in any kind of profession which deals with something that's underneath the earth or working behind the scenes, it's going to be good for you. Now from here, Jupiter is also looking at your 12th house of expenses. So expect that expenses are going to increase. Now the next aspect falls in your 4th house. So the property matters are going to give you some positive results. The property matters can, so long that was not moving, can now start moving. And mother's health can be good as well. Now Jupiter in the 8th house has this vibration of encouraging deep spirituality as well, and it's also looking at the 12th house. So this is a very good time for Cancer moon signs if they are in spiritual practices or they want to pursue spiritual practices. So don't waste your time on the negativities. Try to put your focus on the positive sides of life, and the spirituality is definitely going to show you the way. Moving on to Leo. For Leo, Jupiter has come to your 7th house. It's considered a very good transit for you. From here, Jupiter can actually, bring marriage if you are looking for one. Jupiter can salvage your marital life. Jupiter from here is activating all the karma triangle, which is the desire triangles, 3, 7, and the 11th. Now, ambitions are definitely going to be fulfilled. Travel will be there. Some travel related to your profession will be there. There can be, going to foreign lands as well, again due to profession. Now Jupiter from here is looking at your own sign, meaning your first house. So a lot of wisdom is going to come to you. You are going to feel quite optimistic, confident about the happenings of your life. So overall, for Leo signs, Leo moon signs, this is a wonderful transit. Enjoy as long as it lasts. Moving on to the next sign, which is Virgo. Now for Virgo, so long Jupiter was sitting in your 5th house and now it has moved to your 6th house. Now Jupiter's move into the sign of Aquarius and in 6th house is not that great position wise. It can actually create some trouble in your professional life if you are in employment. For independent consultants, for independently employed people, for contractors, etc., this will not be such a bad time. This can give you some gain as well. From here, Jupiter is looking at your 12th house, so expect that that the expenses are going to increase, and foreign travel can be there as well. Now Jupiter is also aspecting your 2nd house. Now 2nd house is the house of wealth. So Jupiter, by sitting in the 6th house, is activating your Artha triangle, and that is 2nd house, 6th house, 10th house, and also the house for expenses. So there will be some movement in the professional life, some gain, some loss. At the same time, expenses are also going to be pretty high for you. Okay, one more thing that you need to be slightly careful of is do not take any loans during this time. You will probably feel like taking one, and those will be granted as well. But if you can avoid it, that will be good. Now, take care of your health. Jupiter in 6th house can bring some health issues, particularly related to your digestive system and liver problems. So do take care of your health here. Next one is Libra moon sign. Now, Libra moon signs are going through upheavals for a long time. Now, the best part is Jupiter has come to their 5th house and is activating their 1st house, 11th house, 9th house from here. So after a long time, you are entering a phase of prosperity. From here Jupiter is actually activating both the investment houses, 5th house and 11th house. So gains will be there, earnings will be there. If the earnings were stuck so long, now the new opportunities for earnings will open up for you. Investments will give some good returns for you. It is very nice time for your children to have children and with the relationship with your children. So you can actually look forward to some very nice time. Now Jupiter again is aspecting your own house, so of course expect some good decisions from your side. You will be knowledgeable, you will be wise, taking good decisions to go forward in life. And Jupiter is aspecting your 11th house, as I mentioned earlier, so gains will be there. Jupiter is aspecting your 9th house. Travel is going to be there, long distance travel, higher education. Jupiter is activating both the houses of education for you, studies for you, 5th house and 9th house. So take advantage of this transit. It's a wonderful transit for you. Moving on to the next sign of Scorpio. Jupiter has come to your 4th house and it's placed in the sign of Aquarius. Now, Jupiter in 4th house from the moon sign gives mixed results, moderate results. Something good, something bad may happen. Your mother's health may be good. And property related matters, they actually be beneficial now. They can actually be beneficial now. From here, Jupiter is aspecting your 10th house of profession. So professional improvement will be there. Jupiter is aspecting your 12th house again. So expect foreign journeys, expect expenses related to foreign journeys or for any other reason. Now, note one thing, wherever I'm mentioning expenses will be involved, these expenses will be worthwhile expenses, will be for good reasons, not something that, that you don't want to do or you had to do although you did not want to do. So these expenses you will be doing willingly. These expenses will bring more benefits in future life. Again, from 4th house, Jupiter is aspecting your 8th house. So there may be some sudden events in your life. There may be, you need to be slightly careful about, injuries and accidents as well. But here, Jupiter is also activating the possibility of gaining some kind of inheritance related money or insurance related money. If you are in insurance sector, this is going to be a very nice period for you. So the next sign comes Sagittarius. Sagittarius is Jupiter's own sign. So long Jupiter was in the wealth house, in the 2nd house. Now it has moved to the 3rd house. Now, 3rd house movement of Jupiter is not that great as per Vedic astrology. But from here, Jupiter is actually activating all the desire houses, and it's aspecting your 11th house. It's aspecting your 9th house, it's aspecting your 7th house. So the houses that it's aspecting can give you a lot of gain regarding those houses. Like, you may have more earning, you may have more travel. Travel is definitely there because Jupiter is activating the 3rd house and the 9th house. And Jupiter is activating the 7th house. So marital bliss may be there will be there, I should say, for the married people. And if you are not married, there can be possibility of marriage for you. Travel, again, 7th house shows travel related to your profession, etc. So that can also get activated. Overall, I'm seeing for Sagittarius moon signs a lot of potential for traveling during this 5-month stretch. Next, coming to the sign of Capricorn. Jupiter so long was in your own sign, that is in Capricorn, and was debilitated. Now Jupiter has moved to the 2nd house of wealth and family. So good time for wealth generation. 2nd house transit of Jupiter is extremely good. So this is going to increase your wealth, your relationship and tuning with your family members. From here, Jupiter is aspecting your 6th house. So you can expect something good, some positivity in your job sector. If you are going through some kind of diseases, you can come out of that. Litigations can come in your favor. Now Jupiter is also aspecting the 8th house from here. So again, some unexpected money can come in, some unexpected events can come in your life. So you need to be prepared for that as well. Jupiter is aspecting your 10th house. So professional development is definitely on the cards. This is actually a very nice transit. So enjoy this transit as long as it lasts. Next, moving on to the sign of Aquarius, where Jupiter has now come. Now, Jupiter's move into the first house is not considered great as per Vedic astrology, and it can actually give you some kind of mental stress, some kind of mental restlessness, I should say. It can also bring some kind of health issues. But see where Jupiter is aspecting. Jupiter is aspecting your fifth house of mantra sadhanas, fifth house of wisdom, fifth house of spirituality as well. So Jupiter is aspecting the fifth house, and that can activate good education for many students. That can activate the potential for going for higher education for people who are looking for it, because it is activating your ninth house as well. From first house, Jupiter is activating your seventh house, looking at your seventh house. So marriage may be on the cards for the right people, and for the married people, marital bliss is going to be there. So this overall is not a bad transit, I would say, although it's said that it's not a great transit. And the other thing that I'm seeing here is a lot of wisdom on you, because Jupiter activating ninth house, fifth house, so it's the activation of wisdom, activation of knowledge for all Aquarius moon signs. Next, I'm moving on to the next sign, which is, and the last sign, which is Pisces. For Pisces, Jupiter has come to the sign of Aquarius, which is in the 12th house from your moon sign. Now, when Jupiter goes to 12th house, it definitely increases the expenses for you. But at the same time, it also increases the potential for spirituality. It increases your inclination to stay alone, to stay secluded. Because this 12th house is the house of vast spirituality. It's the house of meeting with the cosmic forces, meeting with the universal source of life. So, here Jupiter sitting here can actually give you a lot of spiritual satisfaction, spiritual development. So utilize this time for that. Do meditation, be away from all the humdrum of life, and try to harness the energy, spiritual energy that Jupiter is putting in for you. Now, here you can also expect some kind of health issues, hospitalizations may be there as well. But by aspect, Jupiter is activating your fourth house. So property matters are going to be good. Property matters are going to be resolved. Mother's health is going to be good. You may feel certain amount of peace in your heart. And Jupiter is also activating your sixth house here. So, as I mentioned earlier, be careful of health, be careful of hospitalization. And, there is a possibility that loans, etc., may come in the focus. But I would suggest that stay away from it if you can, unless it's completely urgent for you. Next, Jupiter is activating your 8th house. Again, 8th house of sudden events, 8th house of deep spirituality. So the vibration that I'm getting here is the spiritual development for you, Pisces moon signs. There will be certain events in this next 5 months which will be unexpected, which you will probably find slightly difficult to cope up with, but spiritual quotient is also going to go up, and you are going to cope with all the events that's going to happen in your life with this spiritual power that you are going to harness during this time. Now, thank you so much for watching my video. This is all I had to offer as far as Jupiter's transit in Aquarius is concerned. This is a wonderful transit. This is a good transit. Jupiter here is completely free of all kinds of influences of any of the planets. So this is a very nice time. Utilize that. Hope you all will be doing well. And as I always mention, may God bless us all. Thank you so much.